Okay, so you know that feeling, right, when you're like, this is it, this time I'm going to make it happen. You want to build a new habit, something positive, like maybe you're finally going to make meditation a regular thing, or, carve out that time to actually do something creative. Or maybe it's something as simple as like actually drinking enough water during the day.
Right.
We're bombarded with information all the time about what we should be doing, but actually turning those shoulds into habits,
Uh,
making them, weaving them into our lives, that's the real struggle. And it can feel super overwhelming.
oh, absolutely. It's like that initial excitement you get that can be so powerful. But if you don't have a system, a real solid system, it's so easy to just get pulled back into the daily grind, back into those old patterns. It's usually not even about willpower. It's about having the right tools and strategies.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're exploring how a very specific type of tool can actually be a total game changer when it comes to building and actually sticking with those positive habits. A journal. Specifically, a journal designed for this purpose. We've been looking at the journal notebook for positive habits, and what's interesting is that it's not just, any old notebook. It's really about how the way it's structured, how that can really support this whole process.
Exactly. It's all about creating a space, both physically and mentally. A space where you can actually actively work on building these habits. It's like a dedicated place for your habit journey. Our goal today is to really dig into this material, pull out those key insights, and figure out how using a journal in this intentional way can lead to real change, lasting change in your routines.
I remember a few years ago, I was so determined to learn how to play the ukulele. I even bought a ukulele, downloaded a bunch of apps, the whole deal. But my practice was all over the place, so inconsistent. Looking back now, I think if I'd had a way to track my practice or my lack of practice and really reflect on, what was tripping me up, there might have been a totally different story. Maybe I'd be serenading you with some ukulele tunes right now.
Oh,
But let's get back to the basics. Why is journaling such a powerful tool when it comes to specifically developing these good habits?
what's really interesting here is that when you actually physically write things down, there's a level of engagement that's just different than, typing something on a screen. It's a whole other cognitive process. The source really emphasizes this idea that a journal offers a dedicated mental space. It's like your own personal lab where you're experimenting with habit formation. You can lay out your goals really clearly, observe your daily actions that are related to those goals, and then analyze what's helping you succeed and what's holding you back.
So the key takeaway for me here is that journaling, it kind of acts as a dedicated mental space, right? You're transforming these vague intentions into concrete actions by actually recording them mindfully.
Exactly.
And this whole dedicated space idea, it's not just about having a blank notebook. It's about creating that intentionality, being mindful. And the material we're looking at, it really emphasizes how that mindful engagement with what we're doing with our commitments. That's crucial.
Absolutely. When you take that time to actually write it down, okay, did I get that chapter written today or did I actually make it to my yoga class? It makes it real. It's not just floating around in your head as a good intention. It's a documented reality. And that act of recording it, of actually seeing your efforts or even seeing where you're falling short, that becomes a really powerful motivator for consistency.
I can see that. It's like you're building a tangible story of your progress or, sometimes the lack of progress. And that story itself becomes its own motivator. The source also talks about how writing down your goals and your accomplishments, that really reinforces commitment.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what's the why behind that?
Well, if you think about it from kind of like a behavioral psychology standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
when you write your goals down, they become more real. They're not just these abstract ideas anymore. It sends a signal to your brain, hey, this is important. This is a priority. And then when you actually record even the small wins, the small achievements, it creates this positive feedback loop.
Okay.
You're acknowledging what you did, which, triggers a little bit of a reward feeling in your brain, which makes you want to do it again.
Interesting.
So it all ties back to, basic behavioral principles that positive reinforcement really does strengthen those actions you want to repeat.
So it's like this cycle. You set the intention, you do the thing, you record it, and you get that little sense of accomplishment. And the journal really helps facilitate that whole process. Now, we're not just talking about any notebook here. We've been focusing on Listallian journals. What is it about their design that makes them really work well for this whole habit building thing?
Well, with Listallian journals, it's like they really thought about the specific things that people need when they're trying to build habits. For example, the paper. It's smooth. It's this nice ivory color. And it might seem like a small detail, but it makes writing more enjoyable.
Hmm.
And when you actually enjoy the experience, you're more likely to keep doing it. You're more likely to stick with the habit of journaling itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it feels like a chore just to write in the journal, that's just another obstacle.
Right.
And their covers are really durable, too. Some of them are even faux leather. That says something, too, doesn't it? It's not meant to be just a throwaway notebook.
Absolutely. It's built to last. It's like it becomes a record, a history of your habit-building journey.
Yeah.
And then you've got those lined pages. You can choose between 7.5 millimeter or dashed lines. And that structure helps you stay organized. It prevents things from feeling too chaotic, which can sometimes be a problem when you're trying to, be consistent with something new.
Oh, yeah. Organization is key, especially when you're trying to track multiple habits at once or, spot patterns in your behavior over time.
Right.
And speaking of organization, the numbered pages and the table of contents seem super practical.
Oh, they're essential. They make it so easy to find what you're looking for in your journal.
Yeah.
You can easily flip back to specific entries and track your progress over weeks or even months.
Right.
Imagine wanting to see what you were thinking and doing about a certain habit a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple with those numbered pages and that table of contents. It's all about making your insights accessible so you can actually do something with them.
Okay, and then there's the paper, the 120 GSM thick paper. It sounds pretty substantial.
Yeah.
What's the significance of the thickness?
So the 120 GSM refers to the weight and thickness of the paper and that higher density. It prevents ink from bleeding through, which is obviously super important when you're writing a lot. It also just makes the journal feel more high quality.
Yeah.
It's more durable, and you can use your favorite pens without worrying about the ink going everywhere.
Okay.
And then there's that little back pocket. It seems like a small thing, but it's actually really helpful.
Oh, yeah, that little pocket. What's the connection to habit building?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
You might have little notes or reminders about your goals, or maybe you printed out a tracker or something. The back pocket gives you a place to keep all that stuff together with your journal. Everything related to your habits is all in one place. You're less likely to lose those little prompts, and you can just stay focused.
So when you look at all these features together, it's clear that Listallian journals, they're really designed with habit building in mind. They're more than just blank pages. They're structured tools that can help you make real progress. Okay, so we've talked about why journaling is so helpful and how a well-designed journal like a Listallian journal can really make a difference. But let's be honest, building new habits, it's hardly ever a smooth, straight line. We get distracted. Life gets in the way. And sometimes we just lose motivation. How can a journal help us navigate those inevitable bumps in the road?
That's where the journal becomes your anchor. When you're feeling overwhelmed or you've lost sight of the bigger picture, you can open up your journal, read those initial intentions you set for yourself, and remember those small steps, those micro actions that'll get you there. It's like a roadmap.
Okay, so it's about creating that clarity, breaking things down so the overall goal doesn't seem so daunting, and reviewing your journal entries regularly. That's key to staying on track too, right? The source talks about how this helps you identify patterns and make adjustments as needed.
Exactly. By consistently looking back at what you've written, you start to see those patterns in your behavior. Maybe you always skip your workout on days when work is super stressful. Or maybe you're more likely to eat healthy when you pack your lunch the night before. Recognizing those triggers and those successful strategies, it lets you make changes to your routine. You can be proactive about potential obstacles.
So it's like having your own personal data about your habits.
Exactly.
And there's also that accountability factor, right? Knowing you're going to write down whether or not you did what you plan to do, that can be a pretty strong motivator.
Oh, absolutely. It's a form of self-accountability.
Yeah.
It's not just a promise you're making to yourself. It's a record. And facing that record, seeing your progress or lack of progress in black and white,
Yeah.
it can really push you to stay committed.
Okay, so these features and the whole practice of journaling, they offer some really tangible benefits. Let's think about a specific example. My sister was really determined to start meditating every day. She downloaded all the meditation apps, set reminders on her phone, but she just couldn't seem to make it stick. Some days she'd meditate, most days she wouldn't, and she was getting discouraged. How do you think a Listallian journal could have helped her?
That's a super common experience.
Yeah.
I think in your sister's case, the journal could have been a way for her to approach her goal in a more structured way. First, by writing down her intention, maybe something like meditate for 10 minutes every morning. Writing it down would have made it more concrete. And then she could have used those lined pages to keep track of, what time she meditated, how long she did it, and even just a quick note about how she felt afterwards.
So it's not just a yes or no, does she meditate or not? It's about going a little deeper into the actual experience.
Exactly. And on the days she missed a meditation session, she could have written down the reason why. Maybe she overslept or she was feeling rushed. Writing it down could have helped her identify those obstacles. And that back pocket could have been a place for her to keep little quotes or reminders about mindfulness, something to help her stay motivated. And over time, by looking back at her entries, she might have started to see some patterns. Maybe she's more likely to meditate if she does it before checking her phone. That kind of self-awareness can be really helpful.
Yeah.
It can help her adjust her routine, and even seeing a visual record of all the days she did meditate, even if there were some gaps. That could have been really encouraging, a little boost of motivation.
It's not just about tracking successes. It's about using the journal to learn and grow along the way. We also came across this example of Sophia, a college student. Can you tell us a little bit about how a habit journal helped her?
Sophia's story is a great example of how this can work for someone who's juggling a lot of different things.
Yeah.
She was feeling overwhelmed. She couldn't seem to get into a good study routine. She was having trouble prioritizing self-care, and it was all affecting her well-being.
Huh.
So she started using a Listallian journal to track small, achievable goals in these different areas of her life. Things like going for a 20-minute walk 3 times a week, planning out her study sessions for each day, and making sure to spend 15 minutes doing something relaxing before bed.
So again, it's about having these focused, manageable actions, not these huge, overwhelming goals.
Right. And in her journal, she also made a point of writing about how these small habits were affecting her stress levels and her overall mood. She used the back pocket to keep her to-do lists for both school and self-care, which helped her stay organized. And the smooth paper made writing more enjoyable, which encouraged her to keep using her journal. So over time, she noticed a real improvement, not just in her grades, but also in her mental health, and just her overall feeling of being in control of her life. The journal became this key tool for her in building those positive habits that supported her well-being.
It's pretty amazing how these small, consistent efforts, when you combine them with that intentionality of journaling, it can really lead to some big changes. Now, the source gives some practical advice for getting the most out of a habit journal. What are some of the key things they recommend?
One of the most important things is to set clear, small, and actionable goals. It's not about having these vague ideas. It's about defining specific behaviors that you want to develop, and then tracking those behaviors every day, writing down what you did, what went well, what challenges you faced. That reinforces that accountability we were talking about. And then there's reflection, taking some time every week or every month to look back at what you've done, to evaluate your progress, and figure out if you need to adjust your approach. That's crucial.
I think that reflection piece is so important. It's not just about checking things off a list. It's about understanding why you succeed and why you stumble.
Exactly. And the source also suggests using prompts if you're feeling stuck or unmotivated.
Okay.
Simple questions like, what's one small thing I can do today to move towards my goal? Or, what did I learn about this habit this week? Those kinds of prompts can really help you refocus your energy. And probably the most important thing is to be patient and consistent. Building habits, it takes time. And setbacks are going to happen. It's normal. Right. The journal can be this safe space to acknowledge those setbacks without beating yourself up about it.
Yeah.
And to just recommit to your goals.
And it's easy to see how the features of a Listallian journal can support all of this. There's plenty of space for daily tracking. And the structure of the lines and numbered pages helps you set clear goals and reflect in an organized way. Now let's think about the long game. What are the benefits of keeping up with a habit journal even after you've established a new habit?
Well, the source emphasizes that it's really about developing a mindset and a system that helps you keep growing and improving. One of the biggest benefits is that you can track your progress over time.
Oh.
You can look back and see how far you've come, and that can be incredibly motivating. It reinforces those positive changes you've made.
It's like a personal archive of your growth, your resilience.
Exactly. It's a reminder of everything you've accomplished. And the journal also serves as this ongoing tool for self-reflection, which leads to greater self-awareness and discipline. You get to know yourself better. You understand your patterns, your triggers, and what strategies work best for you in keeping those good habits going. And Listallian journals, they're made to last. With all those pages and that sturdy cover, you'll have this record for years to come. Imagine looking back 5 or 10 years from now and seeing the journey of a habit you started today.
That's a powerful thought. It's not just about this one habit. It's about building a foundation for continuous self-improvement. The source also mentions the mental health benefits of journaling.
Oh, absolutely. The act of writing down your thoughts and feelings about your habit journey, that can be so helpful for managing stress, processing emotions, and being more mindful.
Right.
It's a dedicated outlet for those reflections. And that can really contribute to a greater sense of well-being.
And again, the features of a Listallian journal really support this. The numbered pages and the table of contents make it easy to go back and look at those past reflections on your emotional state. You can even start to see connections between your habits and your overall well-being.
Hmm.
And that durable cover, it keeps this valuable personal record safe. Thinking back to my sister and her meditation goal, imagine if she had kept up with a habit journal for a few years. What kind of long-term benefits do you think she might have
I
experienced?
think over time she would have created this really rich, detailed history of her mindfulness practice. She could look back and not only see how consistently she meditated, but also how her understanding of her own mind evolved. What different techniques she tried, how her practice affected her stress levels, her overall sense of calm. It could be a really powerful source of self-compassion and motivation,
Hmm.
especially during those times when her practice felt difficult. The journal could have become like a trusted friend, a companion on her journey of self-discovery and well-being.
So to sum up our deep dive today, it's clear that having a dedicated journal, especially one that's designed with habit building in mind like the Listallian journals, can be a huge help. It gives you that structured space you need to track your progress, reflect on your experiences, and set goals in a really intentional way. And all those features, the smooth paper, the durable, cover the lined pages, the numbered pages, even that back pocket, they all make journaling more effective and honestly more enjoyable too.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not just about writing. It's about being intentional with your writing and having the right tool to support that intention by helping you get clear on your goals, by promoting accountability, and by encouraging consistent self-reflection. A habit journal can be a powerful ally in building lasting positive change.
So, for our listeners who are all about getting to the good stuff quickly, who don't want to wade through a ton of information overload, we hope this deep dive has given you a clear understanding of how something as simple as a journal can have such a big impact. It's about taking those aspirations, those things you want to achieve, and giving them a form, a dedicated space where they can grow and become a real part of your life.
And this brings up an interesting question for you to think about.
Hmm.
What's one small positive habit that you've been wanting to develop? Imagine how the act of journaling, maybe even with a journal that's specifically designed for this purpose, could be the thing that helps you finally make it stick. What feature of a habit journal do you think would be most helpful for you in achieving your goals? It's worth thinking about how putting pen to paper could be the key to turning that intention into something real, something lasting.
And that wraps up our deep dive for today.
Until next time.
See you then.